Hi everyone, it's Mr. Hoffman. Today we're talking about the next set of careers in our Careers in Music series. Instructions. First, watch this video all the way through. In the video, I'll be giving information about several important careers in the field of music. Last week was studio and private music teacher and music therapist, and this week is composer, arranger, orchestrator, and copyist, sort of all in one. 2. Watch and listen to the information given about each career. Topics to be discussed may include career description, professional, personal, and educational qualifications, knowledge and skills required, and salary and pay. 3. Answer the questions as they appear. For example, here is a question now. Finally, keep watching for a review of the correct answers. That way you can be more successful if you have to redo the assignment to improve your score. Here we go. Composer, arranger, orchestrator, and copyist. Job description. A composer creates original music for a specific purpose. For example, performance music for professional and educational performance, including musical theater, commercial music for radio, streaming, advertising, or general consumption, and entertainment music for TV and movies. It should also be mentioned that composers sometimes just create music just because. The process of creating music is defined in our standards, the National Core Arts Standards, as follows. Imagine, plan and make, evaluate and refine, and finally present. Composers often work on commission, and what that means is that a commission is a paid contract to create music or another kind of artistic work, like a painting, for a person or organization. It can also mean the work that is created under such a contract. There are several careers that are related to composer, and those are orchestrator, copyist, and arranger, and we will get into those on the next slide. Arranger. An arranger takes music composed by others and adapts it for performance. Creating an arrangement can be very similar to composing something entirely new. The arranger may or may not deviate significantly from the composer's original creative vision. Orchestrator. An orchestrator works with the composer to assign parts for a piece of music and create the finished product. Sometimes the orchestrator turns the composer's polished draft into a final score. Other times, the orchestrator is given more room to make creative decisions. Unlike arranging, the goal of an orchestrator is to maintain the composer's creative vision as much as possible. Copyist. A copyist takes a fully orchestrated piece of music and prepares parts for performers. Copyists often assist arrangers and orchestrators in their work. Instead of preparing a full score, which is a piece of music that has all of the parts listed on the same piece of paper, for each musician, the copyist prepares individual parts for individual musicians or small groups of musicians, sometimes adding details that will help the musicians follow along. The copyist then binds all of the parts together to deliver the finished product. The copyist prepares the sheet music for distribution. Occasionally, copyists are asked to create sheet music based on a recording or other media without any written materials provided. This can be challenging, but copyists receive special training that helps them complete their work. Qualifications. Composers, arrangers, orchestrators, and copyists must be talented performers, creative, determined, confident, willing to try out lots of ideas, willing to collaborate with others, and it is also helpful for composers to have experience with conducting. Knowledge and skills. Composers, arrangers, orchestrators, and copyists must have a strong knowledge of music theory, music history, and performance. They have to understand a lot of the different music that has already been created and performed and studied so that they can have a foundation to draw from when creating their own work. They must be comfortable with different forms of technology, including audio production and music notation software. They must understand the capabilities of many different acoustic and electronic instruments. This is because if they want to be able to write a part for an instrument, they need to know what that instrument can do. Similarly, they also need to understand the ability of the people who will perform their work. If they are writing for a school ensemble, they might not write something that is quite as hard as they would write for a professional orchestra. Finally, composers, arrangers, orchestrators, and copyists must be able to read music and play piano. Unlike some other careers, this is pretty much essential. There's no getting around this requirement. Composers, arrangers, orchestrators, and copyists must be able to read music and play piano. Education. Pre-college training. Although anyone can be a composer, it can be helpful to have the following pre-college training. Complete high school, have the ability to read music, and have performance skill in one or more instruments, including piano, and or voice. College training for career composers. The following college level training is considered essential for musicians who wish to make a career out of composing. Extensive training in music theory, music history, and composition lessons. Additional training in music performance and music technology. Degree or no degree. To be a career composer, a bachelor's degree or master's degree is not always required, but equivalent training is absolutely necessary. If you want to teach composition at the college level, you need a doctoral degree. What about arrangers, orchestrators, and copyists? Well, the education is roughly similar to composers. However, orchestrators and copyists may have more specialized training that we're not going to cover here. But the education is roughly similar. A lot of the same skills that a composer or arranger will get, an orchestrator or copyist will also get. Salary and pay. Very few composers make a living from composing alone. Possible sources of income include employment as a professor of composition at a college or university, commissions for professional ensembles like the Philadelphia Orchestra, and or school-based ensembles like the Olney Charter High School Drum Corps Academy program. Possible sources of income also include employment as a staff composer, arranger, orchestrator, or copyist at a music publisher, songwriting royalties, commissions, and mechanical licensing for music you composed, composing for Hollywood, for example, movies and TV, marketing companies, for example, composing jingles for ads, and performing. Many composers are also performers. The questions. At this point, you should have answered all of the questions. I'm going to go over the answers now. Number 1, fill in the blank. Composers usually create music for one of the following industries: performance, blank, and entertainment. The answer is commercial, as in commercial music. Composers will create music for performance, including professional and school-based groups, as well as commercial music for the radio, streaming, for general consumption, for advertising, and for entertainment, for movies or TV. Number 2, true or false? An arranger takes a fully orchestrated piece of music and prepares parts for performers. The answer is false. A copyist takes a fully orchestrated piece of music and prepares parts for performers. An arranger takes somebody else's composition and adapts it for performance in a different or similar medium. Number 3, list. By the way, L-I-S-Z-T is the spelling of a composer whose name is pronounced Liszt. Number 3, list. List at least 4 of the 7 qualifications given for composers. And the 7 qualifications were talented performers, creative, determined, confident, willing to try out lots of ideas, willing to collaborate with others, and it is also helpful for composers to have experience with conducting. Number 4, open response. Why do you think it is important for a composer to understand the capabilities of many different kinds of instruments? The answer is because if a composer wants to write a part for an instrument, they need to understand what it can do so that the performer has a chance of making it sound good. If the composer doesn't understand what the instrument is able to do, then they aren't able to write a part that works for it. It's also important because if a composer really understands how an instrument works, they might be able to write a really cool part for an instrument, or a really non-traditional or creative part. Number 5, multiple choice. Which of the options are possible sources of income for a composer? Select all that apply. The answers for possible sources of income are on this slide. Possible sources of income include employment as a professor of composition, commissions for professional ensembles or school-based ensembles, employment as a staff composer, arranger, orchestrator, or copyist at a publisher, songwriting royalties, commissions, and mechanical licensing for music you composed, composing for Hollywood, marketing, and performing. That is all for this career. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for answering these questions. I hope you learned something. Have a great rest of your week, and have a happy and safe Halloween. Bye.